going on, everybody? I'm Max Ralph.
Seth Engle.
Penn State just got beat by Ohio State 44-31. It was an interesting game today. Penn State kind of looked like the better team through 3 quarters of play, and then all of a sudden there was like a 9-minute change where Ohio State all of a sudden went from losing to winning by 20 points. This was a back and forth affair, a lot really even teams, and it just got away from Penn State. Seth, what are your quick takeaways?
I mean, my first takeaway is you can't look at the score here and, kind of tell the whole story about what this game was. Penn State did look like the better team through 3 quarters. They lost it in the 4th quarter, gave up 28 points in that quarter. They were beating them in pretty much every area. When James Franklin goes through his whole thing and he says, well, we won the turnover battle, we lost this, we won that. Penn State was winning in pretty much every category up until that 4th quarter. And they were down in time of possession, which was really impressive. So, it was kind of weird, the fact that they lost like that. For a point, you kind of looked around and you thought, well, if they pull this out, we're thinking about a college football playoff run here. Next thing you know, they're down by, over 20 points and the game's over.
Yeah, it was weird because, the prototype for beating Ohio State at Penn State was kind of set in 2016. You got to have explosive plays, and you got to do just enough defensively to keep them down.
Yeah.
That happened through 3 quarters. Parker Washington had a long 58-yard touchdown. That was the explosive play Penn State needed. Penn State actually was in rhythm on offense, getting good runs from Katron Allen. He had a really nice game today. And the defense, even though it was put in a lot of short fields by Sean Clifford, interceptions and fumbles, was doing enough to hold a talented Ohio State offense down. The prototype was there through 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden there was 1 turnover and Ohio State marched down the field 3 times. I think somebody else had mentioned it on Twitter. It might have been Ben Jones. This is a situation where Penn State played well enough to win, but it kind of just comes down to the fact that Ohio State has the Heisman favorite and a receiving core of incredibly talented players. Those are some of the most important positions on the field, and Ohio State just pulled ahead at the end.
Right. You mentioned the turnovers too, with Sean Clifford, who obviously is no C.J. Stroud, but I think it's easy for a lot of people to turn to Clifford and say, okay, well, this is his fault. He's the leader. He turned the ball over, 3 or 4 times today?
4 times.
4 times today. It's not a great look. He wasn't terrible for the most part, though.
No.
But when you do look back at that game, you say, oh, well, those 2 early interceptions, if they actually have complete drives without throwing picks there, I think it changes the whole trajectory of the game.
Yeah.
So it is hard. It's really easy to point fingers, but I think the bottom line is, and to your point, Penn State is not as good as Ohio State or Michigan. It just is the bottom line.
Yeah.
They're not there yet. They're working toward it. They're not elite. We've been saying this for weeks. Penn State is probably going to finish the year 10-2. We said that at the beginning of the year. We've said that every single week since.
Yep. And it just gets closer to reality every week.
It's just the bottom line. It's a 10-2 team, which should be looked upon as a success after going 11-11 over the past 2 years.
Yep. I
think going 10-2 is a great step in the right direction, and then you bring in the young guys who are making a huge impact right now.
Yep.
And then when they lead, I think we could be looking at, some really good Penn State teams.
Absolutely. I think the last thing that was really impressive for me today was I think I noticed a difference in the way that James Franklin coached his team today.
Right.
I was more impressed with the notion of needing to play to win instead of playing not to lose. Franklin went for it on 4 fourth downs, was aggressive in his play calling. It was a little bit of a difference, in my opinion, to especially games last year that Penn State felt like they were in but couldn't quite get over the hump. It felt like Franklin wasn't the reason holding them back today, and I was impressed by the way he coached his team. But again, this season is still possible to be a success. This is just confirming what we all have been already saying. Yeah. Thanks for watching. That's it for us. 1-0 podcast. Penn State plays at Indiana next week. Keep following along with us online at collegian.psu.edu and on Twitter at PSU Football and 1-0 podcast.